Hello and welcome to this new episode of a new book launch from New Degree Press. I'm your host, John Saunders. Thank you for joining us today. Great to see everybody jumping in here. I'm with Mikel Mangold. But thank you for joining us this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are. I understand this book launch is covering a lot of time zones and just really excited to be here. I'm an executive leadership coach and author coach with book publisher New Degree Press. This is a community-owned publisher. Just realized that is on there. This is a community-owned publisher and one of the fastest-growing companies in the U.S. Last year, this enterprise ranked 293rd on the Inc. Magazine 5000 list. This is the fastest-growing privately held companies in America. It has now published over 1,500 authors on 6 of 7 continents. So I ask all of you, if you know someone in Antarctica, please send them to us. That's the last one we have to check off the list. But this success has been driven by the mission. NDP has a mission to empower all to tell their unique story. And as I said, over 1,500 authors and counting. So off to a great start. Super excited about this and just the results that we've been able to pull together here. So if you are interested in that story and learning more, check out the creator.institute website, social media, or newdegreepress.com. So before we dive in, please type in the chat where you're calling in from. And want to get a sense, one, that you know how to use a chat, because we're going to use that throughout the session today to do a couple of giveaways of Mikel's book. And also we want to find out where people are calling in from. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. Mikel's in Germany today. Is that right?
I am in Berlin, Germany. Exactly. Yeah.
Berlin, Germany, and probably a few time zones in between. So really excited about that and seeing where everyone's calling in from. So let's check out the chat here. Now it's, let's see, Mountain Time Zone. So we've got someone out in the Mountain Time Zone in the United States. Congratulations, Mikel. Central Oregon. Look at all these people. It's so early out there in the morning. Boulder, Colorado. You've got a lot of fans in the Rocky Mountains here, buddy. I love it.
Which should be from all around, actually. It should be Germany, France, Switzerland, US, maybe Mexico. We have Berlin. Exactly.
Cape Town.
Florida.
Switzerland, another Berliner, sunny Florida. Welcome, Matt. I think I know that, Matt Miller. Herrera, I don't know that one. Des Moines, Iowa. Love it. Bonn, Germany. Look at this. What an international audience. And really a great representation of this program and the people and folks it's attracted. I mean, here you are sitting in Germany, working in a program that's based in Washington, D.C., which is really cool. We've got a number of authors in Africa now, South America, really all over the world. And in fact, for our friends on the call here from Africa, I'll be down there in late July for a book launch with one of our authors. More to come on that in Uganda. So really excited about that. Pittsburgh. Boy, this is an excited and ambitious group here from all over the world. So let me quick introduce Mikel for those who may not know it. Thank you for putting those notes in the chat. As I said, we're going to ask questions throughout. And as we do, put your answers in the chat. And Mikel's going to have a few books to give away throughout the session here today. So Mikel Mangold is an innovation project manager at NGK Spark Plug Venture Lab. He calls himself an ecosystem orchestrator. Love the title there, buddy. Self-proclaimed. Is that right? A chemist by training, entrepreneurial in nature with international experience in open innovation, digital health, pharma, clean tech, and mobility. Talk about incredibly relevant things for today. A recognized expert in bringing eclectic stakeholders and enabling constructive collaboration to a shared outcome. During this time at a digital health accelerator and biotech incubator in San Francisco, Mikel observed the key differences between the dynamic startup culture of Silicon Valley and the conservative mindset in Europe and elsewhere in the world that is causing it to lag behind in innovation. Right? Leading change is never easy. Mikel has made it his mission to change this limited and conservative mindset by being a champion for collaboration and growing and nurturing networks. And I think you're going to hear a very different definition of networks here today than maybe you're accustomed to. His goal is to harness the rise of the startup and multi-stakeholder economy and innovation ecosystems to inspire future change makers to make a positive impact in the world and solve the world's biggest problems. Well, I'm particularly excited to hear this story as an author of a book about innovation and driving serial change. And I spent 23 years on Wall Street as a salesperson and leader before I became an author and began a career in coaching. But I have had the great privilege to work with Mikel and from early on in his journey and really see just this amazing book come to life and get to follow along. I've had a front row seat to his incredible journey. So, Michael, great to see you. Thanks for being here. And thanks for everyone who's dialed in for us today.
Well, thanks, John, for the intro, and it's a pleasure. And I want to first thank New Degree Press. Right, we are doing this call with this publisher, and it's been an incredible journey because you help a lot of people that haven't published before, and to bring this kind of tar, well, all overthinking and structure it and publish it. So, pleasure to be here, John.
It's as I said, thank you for saying that. And as I said, I mean, this group, it's the biggest publisher few people have heard of, right? 293 in the 5,000 list. Now 1,500 authors in the world and 50 National Book Award winners or finalists in the past couple of years. So super exciting. I appreciate you sharing that. So Michael, you woke up today, May 24th. How does it feel to be an author and have a book available wherever you buy books online?
I had this question since I have officially announced that the book is out a few times. And what I realized is it's incredible how you feel, because it truly changed your identity. People started to call me an author to introduce me instead of my job or of my name. And then I had a lot of message from all around the globe, like right now, talking about the book or messaging me. And I think that's really the blessing, right? It's not that the fact that I publish or that I'm selling books. It's about to see that people resonate and are interested in a message, and that's what I really enjoy right now. Yeah.
So cool. And just to go on Amazon and see something with your name on it, a book in particular that all the blood, sweat, and tears that went into it to make it happen. So really, really powerful. What was the author journey like for you, Michael? You started out with this idea, you worked in innovation, and how the heck did you turn it into a book? What was that like?
Yeah, exactly. The first thing that everybody has to know, maybe watching this, is doing a book is really for everyone, right? It's not like just me or whatsoever, and it's not like you have to be super successful and have 40 years of experience to publish anything. It's all about what is your message, what is the message that you have to the world, and what is the change you're trying to let's say implement. What is the problem you identified? And that's really how it started. So I started with a big problem that I saw in society, which is we have a hell of different societal issues, from political instability to climate change to access to education, or even access to safe cleaning water. But not enough people that I saw around me were concerned about them, or they were working on these problems. And I realized, what do we need to be more like entrepreneurs, dreamers, change makers, to really solve this problem and not just talk about them all day. And that's how I started. How do you make an impact? And then I realized, well, we have an opportunity that our current society is changing, and it's like crisis, right? COVID shape a new way of I would say workforce, digital technologies, and startups, right? And the funding available, and that kind of really, it's a combination of all these elements that try to put together. And then I interviewed, right, a lot of people, right? And New Degree Press told me, no, you have to interview people. What do they think about your thesis or your message? And I interviewed them, and I would say the interviewers shaped the message of my book. So based on what they told me, I started to realize that I could put it together and start to have a storyline, and it evolved over time. It's not like I had the final picture; is I had to lay out the bricks day after day until the final book was published. Right. So that's how the journey's been like.
So you had this idea. There's all these things that need to be fixed in the world. No one's doing anything about it. How do I make this change happen? Is kind of what I'm hearing. And the process took you through this journey of writing, researching, and interviewing people. I have to tell you, the interviews I did for my book, I did several dozen. You made a great point there, Michael, which is it changes it. I find it either confirms, challenges, or helps you think about something new, right? In terms of your book, I actually changed the title of my book after interviewing somebody that gave me a new thought I hadn't even thought about before. What was a change you saw, or a significant change you saw in your journey as you interviewed somebody along the way, in terms of your
Oh yeah,
narrative?
it's very interesting. Well, I mean, I think a lot of things changed, right? I was complaining a lot when I was writing about how companies work, how people think, and was quite negative. And then someone may realize, well, the way you're writing is not making me, connected to the book. I feel pissed off, and that person really made me realize that I had to change the way I argue, right? The way I'm trying to motivate people. It's not through complaining, but it's about explaining that we have a chance to change. Are you joining me? And so that changed really the way that I was trying to write and the ideas that I was to lay out. Instead of saying they're all doing it wrong, saying, well, it worked in the past, they did it right, but today we have to change because we live in a different time, right? So instead of complaining, reframing the way to really create this resonance with people, and that's kind of discussion that changed a lot how I wrote. Yeah.
And that particularly came from one interview that you did?
Exactly. Yes. So I was interviewing, a person that led a billion-dollar fund to transform Boston, Massachusetts, into an innovation hub with startups and so on. And so she really knows the thing about creating change and creating change in terms of culture as well and business culture. And that's the person that I interview, and was telling me about the importance of storytelling and the way you try to bring people into something new. And you cannot do that if you talk like I was doing, right? So that's kind of the really the big change that happened through interviews.
That is so interesting. So the inspiration for this book was stopping, let's stop listening to people complain about things. Let's take action. Let's do something about it. And as you went through the journey, you really learned, you had an idea of how to go about this, but really learned an even more refined way to do it as you talk to more and more people. Um,
Yeah.
I love this.
I can cite really all the title actually of my chapters were kind of framed from the interviews. I give another example. I was interviewing a guy that is published 2 books about creating change. His name is Greg Sotell, and through all this like research, that he provided me and in his input, and I realized, okay, it's all about starting small and growing big. And you start small when you have a message and you try to find the shared purpose, right, that unify people. And that kind of all this interview gave me the title, start small, grow big. So that's kind of other example how it shaped the book.
Start small, grow big, right? And why is that? Well, let's dig into that a little bit. Like, why is this start small concept so important in terms of actually making change happen, would you say?
So what's very interesting is nobody like something we don't know, and that's been proven by scientific research. And the fact that this fear is triggering some bad hormones, and then you just don't know. And there was a study that was done that when people were needing to select between $100 voucher, $50 voucher, or they had to not sure if they're going to get the 50 or the 100, and they had to pay that, right? They always selected the one they were sure to get, which was $50. So they were willing to take more risk losing than to being like surprised and having a bigger value. And the same happened in society. So you need to start small. Why is this? Because you always need to overcome the majority. Another study proven that when there's always this group thinking, right? So if you try to come and nobody's supporting your idea, usually you're just gonna get the backlash, right? And so what you need to have is your first early adopters, 2, 3, 4, 5, that are going to be willing to say, well, this is a great idea. And usually this group effect is essential to start something bigger. And that's why you have to start small.
Start small, get a coalition behind you to help you go out and drive that
Yep.
change. So it's not just your voice, right? I think that's what I'm hearing. Uh, I want to take a quick pause, and I realized I missed so many people that put notes in the chat as we did our opening piece there, because so many came in so fast. So Patty Sharin, hello, nice note in there. David Gittner, I think is a little trouble reading that. Giltner, Tariq, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Patty, who's this? David, do you know some of these names here?
Of course, I know them all.
Outstanding. Welcome. So many folks jumping in here today. There's Matt again. I think I need to start further down. Antoine, welcome. Martin, Oh, and look at this. I've got an invitation to visit Zimbabwe now. Be careful where you invite me to, my friends, because I might just show up. So be careful out there. This is great. What an awesome bit of outreach from your friends all over the world. And who, let's see, what was it? Live from, there we go, witnessing live from Germany. Oh, their name is covered up there. That's too bad. Oh, we even have India on the board. Mohit, welcome. Unbelievable group. So I want to just say thanks for those who are jumping in the comments here. Michael, let's dig a bit more into the book now here and just talk about, what is this book about? What is this networking system that you're trying to bring to the world? This narrative.
Yes. So one of the things that I realize, and it's mainly because I had the chance to be in Silicon Valley, and I'm not saying that to brag myself, right? But if you look at the statistics, they are producing 10 times more than any other place in the world, startups and innovation. And the key differentiator was not the money per se. It wasn't the political stability per se. What really differentiated them was the mindset they had, the mindset that they had to take risk, to be bold, to do massive things and change the world. And the second thing is they had networks. And when I say networks, that's really something that I hope we can share here, and everybody leave this place by knowing what I mean by networks. It's not networking event and you go to a place and and you just start to have a new job, right? That's what people refer to. Today we live in a time where you know so little that you're gonna need to know people that are going to help you to build your idea. And not just to build an idea, to improve your idea, have a better idea, right? So networks of knowledge and idea. The second networks that they uses there was networks to raise funds, networks of capital, networks to find a new place to grow the company, kind of networks of infrastructure, but also networks to, let's say, get an IP strategy, right? So legal things, right? Whatever you want. So I call it networks of resources. And last but not least, what they needed all to scale an idea and change the world was the networks of people to work, right? So you have networks of services, but the one really that like take action, execute, and going to join you to build it up, that's the network that I call people. And that's what they had there. They always had these different things to always fill the gap of what they don't have. And that's the openness, the mindset, the willingness to kind of participate from anyone, right? There was startup company, VC, they all came together, shared resources, and that mindset, the way they did it is what differentiates them. And I want to share to people 7 mindset principles in the book that going to help them to build the networks, to solve problems, and to create potentially companies to do that. And so that's really backed by my observation and a lot of data that actually supporting that, right? So that's kind of the book, what it is about.
That's awesome. Before we dig into the mindset and these 7 principles, which I think are just awesome, and we've got a lot to learn from, uh, you did a really interesting post a few weeks ago on the cover of your book and the evolution of it. What was the story behind the book cover? How did that come together?
Yes, exactly.
That's
So
it.
when
It's above Michael's head there in yellow. If those who can't see it, maybe.
yes, exactly. So we started by having a lot of different ideas, and one of my observation regarding networks and during my research, I came by watching, actually, Patty, you're here, Patty, right? Yes, she's here. So Patty was recommending me a video called Fungi. I think it's fantastic. Fungi, by the way, you can check it out. I think it's on Amazon or something. And they share the networks that you had below the ground into forest, and how the mushrooms were connected to each other and how they share resources to grow. And so a thriving forest and a thriving community in nature is when they are connected and share resources, right? And so I had this idea of ecosystems and nature as a first initial idea for the book, which was a tree. And a tree with people inside, because at the end of the day, businesses, even more today, it's so much about automation and so on. So if successful businesses is when they have people that are really having the mindset to be proactive and so on. So I had a cover with the tree and people. But then I had a problem. Well, the book is not about nature, it's not about networking, It's about innovation and startups. It's about, having good ideas. And based on that, I realized that I had to change the symbol of my book, and to make sure people understand what it is all about. And that's why I came to changing it to the light bulb, which represents innovation. Then the second thing that I changed is I wanted to pack the importance of the multi-stakeholder economy. So what is the multi-stakeholder economy? It's the fact that we are moving away from siloed companies working for themselves and trying to be secretive all the time, right? What we used to have in the past. But we start to share things because you need to work with others to survive. And that's a need that every company has right now. And so that's called the multi-stakeholder economy. So I had a title which was saying 7 minds and principles to thrive in a startup and multi-stakeholder economy. And then people told me, well, it's too long, we don't get it. And so that finally also, with a feedback loop system with my community, I was able to change the color, change the light bulb, change the symbol, change everything, right? And that was using my network of knowledge, I would say, to improve it. And looks like it's quite engaging with people now. And that's all thanks to the people who supported me in this project.
So constant feedback throughout the journey. Many people think an author journey is you sit in a cabin somewhere in the woods and write a book by yourself for many months, maybe years, and do it in isolation. And in fact, this journey could not have been more different from that. I like to compare it to kind of the lean startup model, right? Build, measure, learn, and very much sounds like the journey you went through with your book cover. And not just the book cover that you got feedback on, but beta readers throughout on each chapter, each story, the title, subtitles, all of these things. What was some of your favorite feedback on the book as you went through it with the beta readers?
That's very interesting, right? So, one of the secret of Whitey's book, I would say, is kind of not only acceptable, but close to I would say, a second-time author or a third-time author. And I did that thanks to the recommendation of the publisher, right, New Degree Press, to get a lot of people that are going to read my chapter and tell me what I'm doing wrong. Tell me what is shit, tell me what is good, and tell me to remove things. And I got people that tell me, well, here you're bragging too much, right? Like, yeah, stop it, like reduce like your 2 paragraphs to four lines, right? Or another one was, this is completely wrong, and they put it there, a big red pen, I disagree. And that made me kind of realize that a lot of things I had to be careful. And sometimes it was language, right? I was very negative or kind of maybe provocative with certain type of people or affected. Let's say I was talking about people in corporates, and I would say, well, don't say that about them, right? You may make enemies and so on. And sometimes I didn't want to. So that really made me a lot of progress in terms of reframing my thought and improving them. And that was all about this feedback loop system with the community.
So refining, creating, growing the concepts from the book and taking direct feedback, right? For those who don't know, alpha readers are you and your editing team and your author coaches. That's the alpha team, right? Beta readers, by the time it gets to that group, it's gone through some level of editing to get its chance to say, all right, what is the feasibility, marketability? How is this book being received by the market out there? And that's really what that's about. And as you just heard from Michael's story there, it provides enormous amounts of feedback, and it gives you the ability to refine it. And what it also does is helps drive this community that you're really trying to build, because any great book is going to have a strong community behind it, which clearly Michael does by this extraordinary group from all over the world tuning in here today. So congratulations on that. And thank you for sharing that part of your journey. One part of the journey we've talked a little bit about before is kind of a journey of self-discovery. What do you think you learned about yourself through this journey, Michael?
Oh yeah, it's it was definitely an incredible journey, because I just not only published a book, but I learned an insane amount of information, from the interviews. Made me reflect about myself, about my vision, about the problems that we need to solve, about some topics such as shareholder supremacy that I finished the book with, actually. And that come often, with these different interviews, and they provided me always data. They provided me examples. They provided me kind of insights that I didn't have, and that helped me tremendously to learn about the real problems of our world and the real problems of companies. Sometimes I didn't identify, and that made me even more passionate about the topic. Right, that helped me to now really realize that I want to continue into this topic of multi-stakeholder economy, that we also can mention sometime innovation ecosystems, and the fact that we're really growing into that direction, and that companies, societies, and I'm really passionate about this now. So it's kind of the driver of my career now, and that's been done through all the research of the book. Yeah.
So much learning about yourself and others, right? And your topic. I always love to hear the story, because many times we come and many people don't write a book because they say, well, I don't have a whole story in me, or they think I have this whole story I have to get out there. And in fact, what I think you just argued, and I certainly would, based on my journey and having coached many through this process, it's a journey of learning and learning about your topic, learning about it more deeply, and learning about how others view this concept, this idea that you're thinking about. Let's do this. You had a couple of fun quiz questions that we want to put in the show here. Let's throw this on to get a sense of how people think about innovation and change in the world. So this is where we were talking about earlier about. I'll put the choices up here. It's a multiple choice quiz, but please put your answer in the chat. And the first one who gets it right, Michael's going to send you a free copy of his ebook. Just shoot him an email or a note on that. But according to MIT and Capgemini study surveying 320 global companies, how much did global companies use startups and innovation as a source in 2015 versus their prediction for 2025? A, 1 versus 44, B, 9 versus 24, 17 versus 69, or D, 26 versus 51. So throw your answers in the chat. First person who gets it right, Michael will send a free copy of his ebook too. So who's got an answer out there? And this came from research in your book, correct?
Exactly. So that comes from research in the book, and it's also the realization, right, that I was thinking, okay, we live in a startup economy, right? That was my feeling, and then I came to the data that startups are going to drive the German economy by 2030. We create 1.5 million jobs in Germany. In France, it's boosted by President Macron, right, with the French tech BPI funding 40 billions for startup. And then in the US, right, we all know it, Barack Obama startup initiative, which boosted by entrepreneurs. But it's not just startups that are creating coming onto society. Is that companies, they have to work with agile teams and companies, and they work with startups. And so this number here is quite impressive in the way companies innovate and create revenue is quite of a drastic change. So that's why I'm asking this question. So we have some number here.
Looks like we have a winner.
We have a winner. Exactly.
Oops.
And the winner is
Yassine. Is it Yassine? Am I saying that right?
Exactly. Yassine is right. So only 1% of the, I would say innovation was coming from startup in 2015, and 44% will come from startups in 2025, which is quite impressive, and almost you can't believe it, but it's quite a drastic change. So Yassine, I will obviously send you a copy to you.
But a lot of guesses out there. Thank you for jumping in there, everybody. I'm going to ask Michael a couple more questions, but I'd encourage all of you, if you have questions for Michael, to throw them in the chat. We're happy to grab those here in a couple of minutes as well, to hear what's on your mind today from all over the world in many, many time zones. I think we've got about a 13 or 14 hour spread of the time zones here for everyone on the call here. So thanks again for jumping on, everybody. Earlier in the introduction, we talked about you being a chemist by training. What the heck drove you to chemistry?
Yes, one of the reasons what I think this is important and maybe to talk about, it's because a lot of people forget the importance of science when we think about solving the world's biggest problems. And early on, when I was in high school, I knew that I had to find this kind of purpose-driven life, and I said, what's my role here in life? What do I do? And that attracted me to chemistry. So chemistry is all about understanding the world we live in. It's about understanding what are the particles that you have in the air, what is the the screen made of? What is your touch screen? Why is it tactile and not the other one? What is a battery? What are the cosmetic made of? Why do we get food that is 20 days in fridge or 30 days in the fridge? What's the difference? And so when you study chemistry, you learn all that stuff. And that drew me to chemistry. And this is also why I'm thinking now about this biggest problem, because I see a possibility. And the possibility is everything can be created, everything, right? When I see skepticism about electric cars, oh, well, they're producing batteries. Yeah, but maybe in the future we have batteries made of salt, right? Who? I know it's possible, and we can make it. You can make a battery that is 10 times more efficient because you can 3D print it. When we talk about drugs, maybe one day we can make them in 2 years and not 10 years of development and spending $1 billion in R&D. And that made me excited about the future. And learning chemistry helped me to understand that everything is possible. And it's all about collaboration even more, right? To make it cheaper, make it more accessible, and make it greener. Yeah.
And how did you make that transfer from having this mindset of chemistry, finding sort of the origin of everything, to having this passion for making things better and more environmentally friendly? Where did that purpose enter your life?
So, it's funny. It came, one of the chapter in the book actually is moving outside your silos, right? And going out and crossing your border. And that's because the one who do that usually have a huge inspiration to change things and make it happen. And that's, you can see in the, I would say, the bio of most entrepreneurs. Steve Jobs took calligraphy classes before joining into design and then finally business. Carl Gerasi, a person I'm citing in the book, is the father of the birth control pill. And he's been in Austria, Bulgaria, US, Mexico, came back, wrote books about art, and finally he built several companies that changed the world. And so I personally had the opportunity to study in France, study in Germany, study in Switzerland. I studied in Mexico, and I traveled the world in 36 countries, volunteered in South Africa, been in a former segregation zone, and met incredible people doing different stuff. And that made me want to create, that made me want to build. And now the experience in Silicon Valley just made me more hungry, because I realized that you can really create anything if you build networks around you. I know you may wonder, well, you haven't created anything yet, right? Well, the thing is, I'm young, and statistics show that usually it comes later. So once you build that kind of diverse city of experiences along your way, and then when you get 40, usually something amazing comes up. And most entrepreneurs that are successful are 44, right? And that's kind of the journey that I am on, and like everyone, trying to create this big impact.
Most successful entrepreneurs are 44 years old. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, and that's backed by a study and an article that I can share with the audience later on. Yeah.
That is incredible. And what did that article share about why that age is so magical for entrepreneurs? Where did that land and innovators?
Well, usually we all have the idea that entrepreneurs and people changing the world at 20, right? We have the example of Mark Zuckerberg, and like he did it in his dorm room, and let's say Elon Musk that did a video game and sold it when he was 12, and then did PayPal early on in his career. But this is the absolute exception. And it's like the 1%, even less than what people do in business. Usually it comes later because you just gain the wisdom and knowledge from the market, right? You just know your market, you know the industry, you know the problems better, and you have the relationship, right, by 40 to scale an idea. And so there are some very fortunate people that make it very early, based on often circumstances. I mean, if you look at Bill Gates, if you read the book Outliers, they tell how people are very successful because they grew up rich, right? This is just a reality. Bill Gates had access to computers before anyone else in the world, because he was living to one of the first computer in his university in the world. And so he started to code before anyone in the world. And that made him, let's say, having that competitive edge. And so not everyone has this chance. And a lot of them will fall into what is kind of expected, is that you first need to gather the experience, and then later on you make it. And that's kind of the path that I'm on, I guess.
That is awesome. We have a couple questions in the chat I want to jump to, I think from our friend in Zimbabwe. Was it any other influences in your writing other than quantitative metrics, philosophical influences? Thoughts on that one?
Other influences and metrics. Well, so the whole book is shaped by personal experiences, right? So everything is inspired by what I kind of discovered by myself, right? Crossing your border, what I mentioned, right? Giving first, right? I discovered I was mentored by incredible people, especially in Silicon Valley, and they shared with me the power of sharing, the power of giving, the power of taking your time. One of the things that I realized is the most successful people in the world, they take time. They always have time. This is always the experience I have. I have a question, they take the time to answer. And the people that are kind of not that successful, they always like, I don't have time, I'm too busy, or whatsoever. So that's like a key differences. Other things that I've learned is the power of social media, that I personally tested using every day, and incredibly how people come to me. I have coffee chats every day with people around the globe, and so on and so on, right? So personal experiences, data, interviews. That's, I would say, what shaped the book and the message.
I love it. So your own personal experience, and that's really what makes a book powerful, right? And the process coaches you through your own personal stories, interviews that you do, research, quotes that you gather, just
Exactly.
research from so many different capacities. You touched for
Yeah.
a second there on the give first principle, I think, Michael. So why don't we bring our next
Yep.
quiz question up here? So again, put your answer in the chat here. What is the give first principle in the startup world? Nonprofit volunteering, giving time altruistically, giving time with expectation of return. So throw your answer in the chat. Whoever gets it first, we've got another book for you here from Mr. Mangold, freshly hot off the presses. It looks like we've already got
Exactly.
some
So
answers.
here we have a question,
Uh,
and this is this key first principle, just for those who don't know, is not made by myself. It is something that I was incredibly inspired from, and who made that hashtag, and let's say made it a mantra or made it even a religion, is the co-founder of Techstar. Co-founder of Techstar is called Brad Feld, and Techstar is one of the biggest startup accelerator in the world. And now Brad Feld is, he's founder of several companies and an investor and so on. And he's promoting that. He's having a podcast. And I want to share with you that this is one of the key minds and principles to thrive into this multi-stakeholder economy.
I love it. It looks like Ashish, a number of people got the answer right here in the chat. Thanks for jumping in. Ashish got it first. Christina, Trudy, Martina, and a few folks that name is hidden for whatever reason, but well done. Do you have Ashish's contact information? If not, maybe he could send you a private chat
Of
with his email
course.
address and get you his information.
Yep.
That's great. And so what is the power of this principle, right? It sounds obvious, but why isn't it more pervasive in the world, this give first principle, you think?
Well, it's because we still live in a very silent society. I see it in my own company. Everybody is driven by KPIs. Everybody is driven by their own boss and teams and verticals in terms of niche market. And then there is always the question, what's in for me? Why do I do this, right? And that's kind of also how we grew up in at school, right? You don't help people. You don't help to cheat, right? You don't try to help them. That was a bad idea. And so that indoctrinated people where they don't want to spend time for others. And it's not being valued by anyone. You don't get anything. But the problem is that this has changed drastically. If you don't do that, you will end up kind of, always being by yourself, or you will always get value by the people who you're paying or that have to work with you. But if you want to change the world and change a large systemic problem, which is the purpose of building networks, you're going to have build massive networks. And to build massive networks, not just a team of 5 people you're paying, is you have to help an insane amount of people, because you never know when that's going to come back, but it's coming. And that's what you need to do. You need to give without expecting anything in return. And that's how an ecosystem is thriving, when people help each other. And that's the whole purpose of a community. It's all purpose of a startup ecosystem and a multi-stakeholder economy. and so that mindset is essential. And I believe me, you can watch the TED talk of Adam Grant. It's called Give or Take. He has a book about it as well. It's an insane amount of people who are thinking as takers, and we all know the people that message us every day to sell stuff, and that's kind of the mindset I'm trying to change in our society. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if a day goes past when I don't get 37 spams on LinkedIn from somebody trying to sell 1 million copies of my book or something like this.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's fascinating that it's been kind of ingrained in us. Was that part of your research that you learned that it's been kind of ingrained in us to think of ourselves first through school and not cheating, this kind of thing?
Oh, exactly. Well, so I discovered that through interviews as well, and to my own understanding about our system, and just through facts. I mean, if you think about timetables, who shaped the week? Who shaped the weekend? It's been shaped by the Industrial Revolution, and they started to invent clocks to wake up people in the morning, because before the clocks, they had to kind of smash the door and wake up the workers. And that the kind of system that put you into our siloed and structured way, which was incredible for that time, right? You very productive. We had to produce a large amount of goods. But later on, no, we are in a creative economy. We need to create, we need to adapt, we need to change, we need to constantly interact with people to make sure we're on the right track. And that's now, let's say, away from our principles, and we have to bring it back.
Wow, what a powerful message, right? So what is that acronym? WIFM, right? What's in it for me? Sort of getting away from that mindset and thinking about how do we
Exactly.
create greater win-wins? Because when we can do that, that's how we create leverage in the world, the economy, and really make change happen. Because as you know,
Everybody
and
benefits from it. Yeah,
right, not every big projects never get done with one person. A couple more
exactly.
questions in the chat I want to jump to here. Matt Miller has one for you here. Networking is an important part of innovation, but many large scale companies are siloed. You talked about that a little bit, closed off from sharing. Have you experienced that? And how do you shift this mindset in big companies to open innovation?
Well, that's exactly the point, right? I experienced it myself. I was able to work in two large global companies, having over 100,000 employees, and that's exactly what's happening, right? And everybody's for their own team and so on. I think the most important is that the boss and the leader embrace these collaboration principles. They encourage the employee to participate into other events and groups and teams. And when it's not part of your KPI, well, it's still recognized as efforts, and your boss is proud of, right? So that's kind of the top down. And here's the thing: the bottom up is equally important. So you have to show that you would like to help them, you would like to participate, and you would like to be recognized for that as well. And so when these discussions are constructive, and there's the ask, there's this proactiveness, right? You cannot wait that things happen by magic. You have to do it, ask for it, participate, create communities inside your organization. And usually, when more people start to do it, as again, group effect, then the siloed structure can go away. But it's really with the people working for the organization. If you have a lot of takers, it's really hard. If the company decide to hire givers and leaders, right, that the situation is completely different. So that's how to remove it.
So you talked about collaboration, empowering your people in many ways, Michael. For those of us who, I can promise you, having worked more than 2 decades on Wall Street and working with many leaders over time, what you just said does not come top of mind to people or doesn't come naturally. Where do you even? So I think there's a lot of people out there that might just sort of feel stuck. Like I don't have this collaboration. I don't have this kind of networking effect in my company that I want. Where would you encourage those people to begin? What would you say to someone feeling stuck there?
Yes, no, it's a good point. I mean, there is for me the very starting point, right, to start with, and I talk about it in chapter one, that is about taking ownership. Well, you have to know what you want, right? If you don't know where you're going, what you want, it's very hard to ask for change. Change do not happen by magic. Change happen by concrete ask with a storytelling perspective. And to embrace, so people join you in the change, you need to have a clear why and a clear what, right? And the how kind of, well, you never really know. And that starts with self-awareness. And I truly believe this is the most powerful of our time, is that we can really create quite well our self-awareness today. You can take classes, You can connect with people around the globe. You can chat with anyone around the globe right now and be inspired by them. You can listen to a hell of podcast. I'm listening to watching a lot of people that inspire me. I read biographies. I had a question before in the chat: who inspires me as a role model? So for me, I have top 3 people exactly that I'm truly inspired from, and that kind of drive me. So there's one that is called Richard Branson. Why I like him? He came out of nowhere and started to write journal in a student's magazine, and now he's the founder of over 400 companies. And when you read his bio, you're just blown away by how he accomplished that. Number one. Second is Bill Gates, that I already cited. Why is this? Because this guy is one of the richest guy in the world, and he keep adding value. He keep building his foundation, solving problems in Africa, creating this breakthrough energy venture fund. That really inspired me, right? So this energy to solve problems and never stopping, it's really inspiring. And then the last one, I'm sorry, it's only men, but in my case, that's how I identify myself, I would say. But it's Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek for me is an incredible leader. And again, what I like about him, he also started from nowhere. He was like a student in philosophy or whatsoever, and then he had this viral TED talk, and he also collected stories from people. And now he's promoting kindness and kindness and serendipity and a lot of other topics to make a workforce thrive together. And I would say that's top 3 people that inspire me.
Pretty impressive list there. Michael, were you on the session when Simon Sinek came and talked to our author coaching group?
Well, believe me or not, I had to watch the recording because I missed it.
It was a large group, so I wasn't able to see everybody, but Simon Sinek came and talked live to the author coaching group here a couple of months ago. And I have to tell you, he was a surprising one to me because, perception, right? Perception is reality. And I had this perception he was going to be kind of this sort of very impressed with himself and sort of arrogant person. And I don't know why he came off to me that way, sort of from his public persona, but boy, he could not have been more genuine, humble, thoughtful, and giving of his time. Normally those sessions are about 30 minutes long where we get access to these incredible people. And he stuck around for an hour and did one-on-one coaching for a number of people live in front of all of us. That was really cool. Yeah. Another interesting question in here about the author journey from Martina. What did you expect when you started to write the book, and how is the reality different from these expectations? I hear an author curious Martina out here is what I think I'm hearing.
Well, first, I hope, Martina, I see your book very soon because I know you are space enthusiast, healthcare enthusiast, and you have so many great ideas. So I hope to see your content one out there. Well, what are my expectations? So different things, right? So there's the expectation that I have for myself. There are the expectation that I had from my learning. There are the expectation I had in the process of writing the book. And then there's the life after the book is out. But let's stick to the process of writing the book to keep it short. Well, I like to jump into projects and learning how to swim. Jumping in cold water and I see how, and I figure it out. And there's always a way out. So that's kind of how I started. I had no idea. Actually, I don't know if she's here today, but I was, a friend of mine had wrote a book, and she said she did this program, and I had no idea about this program. And I said, okay, I just started. I just go for it, and let's see what happened. And finally, it was the best decision ever because, well, they give you all the tools, you get help. I think the most important thing when we start something new is to be supported and to have, like, when we don't know something, the ability to ask questions. And once you get that, I think the problems are solved. And so that made the process quite easy. It was extremely challenging, over 1,000-hour works, I'm not going to lie. And at the end, I was really, I would say, almost angry. I just wanted it to be finished. And but that's kind of how it went. But I knew that it's going to be like this. I kind of expected it. I think the beauty is that it's happening, and that's it's not really easy to describe how amazing that feels.
It's this power of a community and this group that comes together, and this weekly coaching to keep you on track. I mean, for me, I can tell you, I tried to throw my book away several times throughout the journey. Is anyone going to read it? Does it make any sense? I can't even write a chapter. This is terrible. I had all these crazy thoughts of self-doubt. And so many times the community, the coaches, the editors brought me back off the ledge and helped me out. So Martina, thank you for asking that question. But we like to say here, never write alone. And that's very much what this community is about, and very much takes a lean startup approach to getting the books off the ground. Let's see, I think there was one more question in the chat I might have missed here. I want to make sure I grab that. No, I think that was the last one. If you have further questions, we've got a few minutes left here, folks, please throw them in the chat. And if you are thinking about or considering writing your own book, the next cohort of the program Michael went through starts next week, the day after Memorial Day on Tuesday. Really the kickoff, kind of welcome, and then the following week we start with actual content work. But if you are interested, check out the creator.institute and sign up. I don't see any other questions popping in the chat here. I'm going to go back to our questions then. Michael, I don't think we've said yet, what are the 7 principles of this book you've written?
Yes, I'm very happy to talk about it. So again, the principles are here to show that everybody is able to create networks, and it's driven by the change in our economy, the rise of the startup economy, and also the availability of digital technologies, right? And so by applying the 7 mindset principles, you can create any change you want, small and big. The principle number 1 is about taking ownership. It's really about doing it yourself. You have to know what you want and then going for it. That's the number 1, because that's really, I would say, the one that is already missing in most people's lives, and that's why change cannot be done. The second one is about giving before you get, right? It's about giving first without expectation in return, and it's a new way of doing leadership. It's a way to thrive in today's economy. Then we have a principle that is, again, that I mentioned before, is starting small, growing big, right? And we have another principle, which is blowing up borders, is to remove all the silos around you, blowing up that bubble, and changing departments in a company, changing jobs, trying something new, learning something new, or even moving into new countries. Then we have the chapter about doing what you can't. A lot of people just don't do it because there is a rule, and I really want to show that a lot of rules are made for a different time, and a lot of rules are made to benefit some type of population or industry, and you're not here to just respect them. You should confront them, and that's how you attract people, and the ones that are also against them. So you build networks through that. Then we have the chapter about social media, and the chapter mindset principle said go viral. A lot of people still understand how powerful that is, how you can connect people across the globe towards a shared outcome, and how you can establish trust and bonding through social media. And last but not least is really about having skin in the game, taking the majority of the risk. That's because a lot of people are fearful. A lot of people don't like the unknown, and that's a psychological fact that we all have. But if you're able to confront that, if you're able to manage ambiguity and being comfortable with what's uncomfortable and take the majority of the risk, a lot of people are going to follow you, and that's why you can attract people to work with you. And so that's kind of the 7 mindset principles. And I hope people will read the book to really dive in. And as I know that it was a lot to digest right now.
A lot of the book here, but so much great content, a new way to think about things, a roadmap to start and drive and deliver innovation inside of your company and many others. Michael, what would you say the key message of your book is here that you hope people take away?
Well, in one sentence, it's creating change is not about tools and processes that many people think. Creating change is the combination of them, and the education, which most people have, with a specific mindset and networks. So that's kind of really the combination that I want to share. And you need the combination of the 3 to create something, small and big changes. That's really the message of the book.
I love it. Michael's book, Today's Superpower, Building Networks, 7 Mindset Principles to Thrive in a Fast-Changing World, is available today, wherever you buy books online. Michael, what didn't we get to you'd like to share with your audience today? And if people have maybe 1 or 2 more questions, please throw them in the chat while Michael shares.
At the end of the day, thank you. It's really nice to see our other authors here. One of the other things that I really want to people to think about while listening, that it's not just about my book and and less supporting me. It's about, with me realizing that we have a lot of issues in our world, like races, like people that are getting depressed, like our healthcare system that is reactive and not preventive, like our forests that are burning. 75% are caused by humans. We have 4 billion people that still don't have access to hand washing facilities, and in a time of COVID, it's quite a disaster. And now we are at the energy crisis, supply chain crisis, political instability, and we need more change makers. We need more people that say, okay, I'm going to wake up and try to solve these problems. And I don't want to. I wish not see a society just being consumers, and that's kind of my hope with the book, is to create an army of change makers.
What a powerful message. One question overlooked, maybe we could touch on with our last couple of minutes here. Why 7 principles?
Why 7 principles? I believe in the number 7. I like the number 7. For me, it's a magic. It's digestible. It is possible to implement. So I wanted to not be too short. I didn't want to be too long. And that made me feel like a good framework and a blueprint. And so that's why I selected 7.
And no doubt your research and interviews reconfirmed much of your thinking.
Exactly.
One last thought here. Could you send this book to politicians around the world? Would that be okay?
It's a very interesting question, right? For who is this book, right? So for me, this book is for any change maker, anyone trying to, implement a change. And I also call them the entrepreneurs, right? The ones that are trying to be entrepreneurs or trying to make it. And that's not just for scientists, technicians, business people. It's really for everyone, including politicians. And why politicians are so important to that. So I don't know exactly which part of politics you're involved in, Iris, but the politics is extremely important to create that systemic change, societal change. Going away from shareholder economy, going towards the stakeholder economy is really important, and politics has a huge play in that. And so that's why it is also for politicians to think about the startup economy and so on. Yeah.
Leaders, politicians, people trying to drive and make real change happen. If you haven't connected with Mikel, you can find him on LinkedIn at Mikel Mangold, Twitter, same, and also mikelmangold.com. You had one last offer you want to make to the group here today. Is that right? As we come to the top of the hour.
Yes, I mean, obviously, it's kind of a journey that is starting. The book is out, but it's really the beginning of a journey. And again, I cannot create any change if I'm alone. And my wish today is that some of you will believe in the message and believe that some others will benefit from it. And how can you help me spread the word, make this army of change makers that I'm dreaming about? It's to buy 5 copies of the book. It's only at 90 cents right now. So it's like €5. It's almost nothing. And you share it with 4 people or 5 people that you believe will benefit from the book. Once you send me that screenshot that you did it, I'm happy to send you a signed copy, and I would like for you to be inspired and hopefully implement a change in our society.
This is what a great message. This is what's so important about a book, and an incredible message, powerful message like you have here, Mikel. We can't just keep it to ourselves. It's up to us now to go out and share it with the world and help drive this change as you suggest. And the way you get that done is with the help of others in a community and collaboration. And I love that you're asking your audience for that. Maybe take a pass on that next latte at Starbucks and go out and buy Mikel's books. I think you'll find a lot more change in the world from sending out 5 copies of Mikel's book than that next trip to Starbucks. But with that, I want to say thanks to this incredibly global audience we've had here today. I want to say thank you to Mikel for giving the Creator Institute or News Degree Press a chance a year ago. Did you think you even had a book that would come out?
Exactly. No, I didn't think about this. It was a long-term dream, and it's amazing that it's there, and everybody can write a book, and everybody needs to be inspired. So I think we all have the responsibility to inspire others.
I love it. What a great way to end on. Again, thank you all for joining us across many, many time zones. Go out and get Michael's book today, wherever you buy books online. Tune in later this week and next week for several more book launches coming out, as we have many authors, dozens of authors publishing during this next period. But really appreciate your time. Check out Michael's website as well. And Michael, thank you again for your faith in the Creator Institute, New Degree Press, and joining us here today for the program.
Thank you, John. It's a pleasure. And I would just like to finish that the paperback is coming out in June. So right now we have the Kindle, and we are actually just waiting the shipment confirmation before starting this long journey of sharing the message. Thank you, John, again for this incredible session. I really appreciate all the things you're doing with the community, and it's been a blessing. Thank you very much.
You are too kind, Michael. Thank you again. Great to see you. Thank you again for all of our listeners out there. Be sure to follow our YouTube channel and check out New Degree Press, and follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever you like to consume your social media. Have a great rest of the day, and go out and find Michael's book. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Michael.